I'll respect Kory's ball knowledge. But Kory, let me ask you this. All right, we'll start with Lions because I do want to pick your brain on the Pistons at the end here. What'd you make of Brad today talking about Za'Darius? I mean, does it kind of change, I guess, your way of thinking now, getting some clarification on the Za'Darius Smith situation now that he's kind of been in contact with Za'Darius Smith, or where are you at with that?
It doesn't change my thoughts because I mean it's if anybody's really been paying attention, Brad is not saying anything that he didn't say at the NFL scouting combine. I mean, pass rushers are at a premium. We all knew that Za'Darius Smith had a bonus coming, and I mean that really only the only thing that made sense for getting rid of him was the financial constraint. It wasn't because of what he did. I mean, the dude led the team in pressures by the end of the season, so it always made sense that was the reason that they let go of him. Just I guess you can say maybe for Lions fans to actually hear it, that's probably the good thing for them.
Yeah, and Kory, I want to bring up too something that Brad talked about today when he spoke with Dan Miller was going in over. He said it this offseason. In his mind, there was actually a time where when he was talking about best player available in this draft, he did have kind of a moment where he was like, oh, no, I don't think I can go BPA this year because he didn't know how free agency was going to end up going because of all the money they have to allocate. And then he realized, after free agency, getting DJ Reed and some of these guys he was able to bring back in, that now he's able to go BPA. What are your thoughts on that, first of all? And then as he gets into the draft, like BPA, do you see him being like, hey, outside of, I know everyone in the world wants them to draft an edge, but like, hey, let's a legit BPA, offensive line, safety, corner again, linebacker, whatever it is. It's like Brad's, just like he did with Jahmyr Gibbs a couple years ago. He's going to get his guy. Do you think he kind of just goes that route and surprises the Detroit Lions fans?
Well, I mean, you have to consider everything in the draft. I mean, like I think we talked about it last time. If a guy like Tyler Booker becomes available and slips in the draft, I mean, do you pass up on that type of a lineman who could be one of your stalwarts for years to come just because you have to fixate on drafting an edge to appease the fan base? So I think that is right now with them being able to get DJ Reed at a very, I guess you could say, very good price, you have to be considerable about your options with how they're able to be flexible with the money. So I think going BPA is not necessarily a bad route. There's a lot of talent on the defensive line in this draft. We've known that Brad has a tendency to trade up in the second round to go get his pieces. So I mean, if there is a top talent out there that lands up to them, or there's an opportunity to grab somebody different in the first round, they could still go ahead and grab a quality edge rusher in the second round. So I don't think it would be the end of the world. Now, if they don't get an edge rusher in those first two rounds, I will say that would be pretty concerning.
And Kory, I would not be surprised if we're sitting in this situation where you just brought up edge rusher's not the first pick. Do you think because of that, I think it's a growing conversation. We had it last week that the Lions and Brad Holmes trade out of the first round this year just because, again, you talk about how deep this edge rushing class is. You can go and get that in the second round, but you could also add value in this draft and possibly next year's draft class.
Hold on, that last part cut out. Could you say that again for me? Sorry about that.
Basically, do you think they're going to trade back this year? Any chance they trade back to add value this year and possibly next year versus staying at 28 or moving up?
I think it's a possibility that they could trade back. Like I said, this is a deep draft. They might be able to trade back and get a bevy of second round picks instead of just going ahead and staying locked in at 20. So I think anything is possible. I mean, that's the one beauty thing. That's the one beautiful thing about Brad Holmes. He's not really tied to a strategy. You never really know where he's going to be coming at from the draft. But the one thing that you can say is that for the most part, his first round picks have hit, and a lot of his other later round picks have hit as well. It's when he takes on these projects and these guys that come to the team with injury concerns. That's the ones where they kind of don't hit. So I think fans should at least just trust what Brad is going to do in this draft for right now, because I mean, up to this point, he hasn't really given anybody a reason to not trust him.
Yeah, Kory, I think, and I mentioned this today. I think there's going to be a tough conversation, and we've been kind of talking about this for a while. And Brad is picking up the fifth-year option on JMO. I don't know for certain what's going to happen, so I'm not going to act like we're already preparing for JMO not to be here. But the reality is, with all the guys they have to re-sign, I don't know how you fit JMO in. If he's coming, I think he'll have another 1,000 yards. So he's going to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. This is 4th year. So 5th year, who knows? He strings together a couple 1,000-yard seasons. I would assume he's going to want something around what Devonta Smith got, which Devonta got $27 million, whatever it is. I don't know how they afford him, Kory. I don't know how it has nothing to do with the person, JMO. We love JMO as a player, but the reality is he might be the odd one out. Where am I off on that, or what do you make of just kind of the 5th year option? Because typically the Lions will extend someone early if they really like them. So can you just give your thoughts on that whole situation?
Honestly, and I don't want to paraphrase or I take that back. I don't want to put words in Brad's mouth. He's a guy that I think we should all take his word, but at the same time, I'm wondering if him talking about it is like GM speak to kind of put a fire under JMO to be able to have a pretty good season and keep his nose clean. Because I mean, let's be real, it's been something every season with JMO, whether it's injury or off the field related incidents that have kept him from being a full productive member. So I think for right now, it's just good to be, I think right now he was just giving GM speak, and that is a bridge they're going to cross if JMO can just have a distraction-free season and put up the numbers that he's capable of putting up. Then at that point, okay, now you have some discussions to talk, you got to have and wonder about how you do fit him back in. Because, I mean, to your point, that's a guy that's going to want the bag. And, if he turns in another productive season, makes a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro or something like that, then, it's going to be hard to not pay him. But if he is unable to have if he's unable to have a distraction-free season, I think that would kind of like go in the Lions' favor if they wanted to retain him.
Do you think, honestly, and Kory, I had the same thought process, another player, and I know he's not on a rookie deal, but David Montgomery, and I've seen this on Twitter a lot of people saying, hey, at some point, you have to find that replacement for a D-Mont. Obviously, you have Jameer, but the whole D-Mont situation as that kind of RB2 in this offense, do you see them kind of starting to make that move maybe in the draft this year? Looking for another running back, unless maybe you think it's Craig Reynolds. I don't know. I've seen some people comment that. But where are you at kind of with that looking into the future over the next season or two?
I think if the Lions were to go look for the David Montgomery replacement, and if we're just being real, it's going to have to take place at some point. I think that would be in next year's draft, or if they have somebody that they like that falls to them later in the draft this year. I don't think it will be a priority because, I mean, if you get David Montgomery a full offseason, he gets full health, that guy should be able to return back to what they need him to be. So I think that would be something that they look toward next season. As much as respect that I have for Craig Reynolds, David, he's not in that David Montgomery class as far as explosiveness and threat to an offense. So I believe that if they do decide to replace him decide to get that RB2, I don't think Craig Reynolds will be the guy. I think right now where he's at is this best suited role, and that's RB3.
Kory, and kind of tying into the running backs here, John Morton came out, the new offensive coordinator last week, saying that he wants to go into next year's season taking 7 or 8 explosive plays through the offense per game. What do you think that in reality shapes out to? Do you think that is, hey, Jared Goff's throwing down the field 7 to 8 times, or do you think it's going to stay in the identity of the offense? He's just going to tweak a couple of things and try to keep this train rolling how it was last year.
That's a really good question. I honestly really do not have a good read on that because, I mean, we're talking about a guy that they're bringing back that does have a connection with Jared Goff. I mean, we've known that John Morton wrote some of these plays that the Lions are already using. So that I'm curious to see how that's going to kind of come to fruition. I don't have a real good read on that right now, to be honest. So I mean, I think once we get closer to training camp, we will be able to see. Right now, it's just pure speculation.
Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, officialctsports.com.